I think communication more for me now is to listen deeply and communicate in a way that really lands. In comms, my role is essentially to center everything around trust and usefulness. AI cannot replace human ingenuity. It cannot replace innovation. It cannot replace creative thinking. So that's the sweet spot. Anybody will ever tell you that they need, there was a eureka moment. Even now, it's
Try, I
constant.
can try. It makes for viral content. Welcome to the School of Purpose, the podcast where we go beyond job titles and jargons to explore ideas, instincts, and lived experiences that shape how we show up in the world of work. I'm your host, Mansi, and today we are going to explore a force that can make or break careers, cultures, and campaigns: communication. In a world where everyone's talking, the real power belongs to those who can truly connect. Because communication isn't just about finding the right words, it's about knowing when to pause, when to listen, and when to let silence do the talking. The best communicators know it's not about saying more, it's about saying what matters. And when they speak, the room shifts. But what does that kind of communication really take? Well, today's guest believes it boils down to three core instincts, the kind that don't just show up on decks or dashboards, but live in the messy human moments that define real impact. We are thrilled to be joined by Sakshi Talwar, Head of Communications at LinkedIn India, a storyteller who has seen it all, from chasing breaking news in high pressure newsrooms to now shaping narratives at the world's largest professional network. Sakshi's journey offers a rare 360-degree view of how communication actually plays out in the wild, with all its nuance, unpredictability, and potential. Trust me when I say this, she's had a front row seat to what actually works and what backfires. We started out in the newsroom together, surviving caffeine, chaos, and deadline drama. So, this conversation is part reunion, part masterclass. Let's dive in. Welcome to the School of Purpose, Sakshi. It's an absolute pleasure to have you with us today, and I am really, really excited about this conversation.
Well, it's a pleasure to be chatting with you. I'm not as excited as you are, but I would only do this for you, Mansi.
Thank you so much. No, and I'm deeply grateful and humbled because I know you wouldn't do it for everyone. So I'm like, as I said, I'm very excited about this conversation, and I think we're gonna have fun. And there is so much to discuss. There is so much history that we have together, but let's start at the beginning. So, Sakshi, you and I both, we started out in noisy newsrooms. We were chasing deadlines. We were telling stories in chaos. And I think it was a different world back then, and I would like to feel we were different back then. But if you could time travel back to that newsroom and tell your younger self one thing about the real power of communication, maybe something you came to realize later on, what would it be? And most importantly, do you think that strong headed young female would listen to you?
That's a great question. And yes, you're right. We go back a very long way. And, like we know more trade secrets than we would like. But yeah, so going back, if you look at the newsroom, it was full of urgency, noise, adrenaline. So, and like I used to feel at that time, which I'm sure you will concur with, that your job isn't just to speak quickly or break the story. Like that's what we used to feel, that I used to
Yeah.
talk so fast. I really had to get this training to speak slower when I'm talking in front of the camera. But that's what we all thrived on: breaking the story, speaking fast, being the first to get the news out of the ticker. But like if I were to look at it today, I think communication more for me now is to listen deeply and communicate in a way that really lands. But I don't think this would have worked for the previous me, because I think we really needed to go through that learning over the years to know that clarity can come through speed and precision also. So that's why I feel that listening is half the job.
Yeah, and I think that's a brilliant insight, right? I was actually reading something about the Mahabharata where it said that even Lord Krishna let Arjun vent for the longest of time before speaking. Krishna is supposed to be the greatest storyteller in the world, right? And yet he listened first. And I think that's exactly what you've just said. Like listening is half of it. And at that point of time, no, we weren't listening so much. We were just absorbing and giving out the information. And there was so much, you're right, there was the sense of urgency which was always there. But I think Like, right, see, in the beginning of the podcast, we have like a small nugget of wisdom coming from you. And also, if you look at it, in those days, we also believed that journalism was the purest form of storytelling, right? We were trained to report the truth. It was supposed to be scrubbed clean of agenda or emotion. And you have actually moved from breaking newsrooms and boardrooms. So, how has your definition of the truth evolved? And where do you see the real magic of a story or storytelling today?
That's such a great question because, journalism taught us that truth is about facts. And you would know that more than me, right? But in the boardroom, truth is very layered. It's facts, yes, but it's also emotional, it's perceptual, and it's lived differently by different people. So today I think that truth is where facts will meet feelings. And that's where the magic that you're talking about is. It's the ability to move people and not just inform them. And I think that our job as journalists was more to just inform people. But when you move into the corporate world, it's more about making people care about what you have to say.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant, right? It's so much more nuanced. And I think it becomes more complex in the corporate world because, first of all, I think truth also has a lens. Everybody has their own lens, right? Your version of the truth and my version of the truth might be completely different. And getting feelings in is always tricky, while it may be easy to say. But ensuring that you are taking into account everybody's feelings, their perceptions, their thoughts, their experiences, it actually becomes much more layered, as you said. And communication today, I think more importantly, has become not just about reach, but also about resonance. And how do
Hmm.
you personally stay attuned to what people are really feeling or needing, especially in a corporate setting?
You really have put together some hard and great questions for me. Well, I'd say that it's about paying attention to what's not being said as well. I try to ask more questions than I answer. And I do feel like curiosity is a superpower in comms. Like, when you're looking at internal forums or social threads, there is often more truth in the gaps, like, what's not being said as well. So that's where I think my focus really is. And yeah.
Yeah, and you are so right, right? What is not being said comes out in such little things, right? Unchecked behaviors, people, exchanging side glances, crossed arms, being silent when, you're supposed to say something. You're right. And being attuned to how people are feeling actually becomes a complicated job. And the fact that you are aware of it, I think, says a lot about how well you are doing your job. So, yeah, congratulations. Although I never had any doubts on how well you'd be doing it. But yeah, it really feels nice to see, how just the way I think all of us have evolved. Coming to LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn today isn't just a social network, it's a mirror of how professionals see themselves and, more importantly, how they wish to be seen. How do you think about shaping narratives when the subject is literally everyone, right? From various fields and various sectors. What responsibility comes with that kind of scale? I'm very curious to know.
Well, yeah, you're right. With great power lies great responsibility. But every professional, like I've realized, brings a unique context. They have different roles, aspirations, lived experiences. So the communication to them can't be generalized. You can't personalize also every message, but that's the balance that we need to hold at scale. And the edge that I feel that LinkedIn has is that it's the only platform that's only for professionals. So it's a space where people come to share knowledge, gain clarity, reimagine what's next for them. More than just jobs, the amount of people I've seen come onto the platform just to exchange knowledge is phenomenal. So in comms, my role is essentially to center everything around trust and usefulness. It's less about broadcasting and more about creating an environment where people feel safe to share, learn, and grow. So this means for me to tell stories that reflect diversity, helping people find clarity. So that's where they find more value. And that's what we aim to create. So if it's not valuable for you, there is really no takeaway. So it's more about what will benefit professionals rather than what we have to say. So there needs to be a merge.
Emerge. Wow. Benefit professionals rather than what we have to say. And I think there is such an underlying humility over there, right? This is not about you, it is about them. It is about telling their stories in a way that feels authentic, that feels genuine. And I love what you said about creating a safe space, because sometimes that is the tipping point, right? If you do not feel space sharing something, then it isn't really truly satisfying what one is trying to do. On that note, can you share a moment, maybe it could be a campaign, a post, just a tiny idea that you felt genuinely changed how people showed up professionally, something that maybe hit you emotionally or struck something in your gut?
Hmm. Okay, if I were to actually just go back to one moment, I would have to say it would be the time of COVID. There was one message on the platform that I saw that, a lot of people also took on to, which said that it's okay not to be okay. Take the time you need and show up as you are. Now, it was not really a campaign, but it was just a message. But the response to that message was overwhelming because people didn't just comment on it. They shared their stories, their grief, their burnout. It was a hard time. And it was just a moment for everyone as comms professional, not just for comms professionals, but for everyone to realize that when communication creates space for truth, it becomes deeper than just a message, right? And I do believe in the power of simplicity, especially in a world where everyone is trying to sound smart. I believe that simpler the message, the more memorable it is. And I think that's still the reason I feel that I still remember it is because it was so simple and yet so hard hitting. So it's okay to not be okay, and
Yeah.
like, so just and show up as you are. So that's what I believe in.
Yeah, like normalizing not being okay, right? I think it was very important during that time, and I think even now. I read somewhere that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And
Yes.
messages like these, they sort of trigger something, right? They trigger a sense of um, connectedness with everybody. You know that oh, I'm not the only one feeling this way. I'm not the only one who's supposed to who's who's feeling harrowed or overwhelmed or exhausted or just probably devastated with everything that's going on. And I think that's the human connection that comes out beautifully with simplicity and simple messages like that, messages that can resonate with everyone. Thank you for sharing
Absolutely.
that. I'll keep that one with me. So, while on the subject of comms, there are so many things that make communication truly impactful. We talk about purposeful storytelling, we talk about engaging, insightful, meaningful communication. But the whole stickiness of communication, right, especially in a world which is constantly scrolling. I mean, the generation is constantly, there is so much of instant gratification, instant messages, you just move on. There's so less of people actually sitting and pondering and looking at something for a longer time. um, if you had to name your personal core pillars, the filters that you come back to when things feel messy or loud, what would you say makes communication impactful or stick beyond the noise or the trends and the tools? What would be your four pillars or, the foundations of what you believe in?
Hmm. So okay, I can give you like an answer with communication pillars, etc., and what we learned. But just one thing, if I had to tell you, which will be a good takeaway for anybody. I read Simon Sinek quite a bit. You must have heard of him. So he writes about the power of why. So it's the purpose, and like I speak about this very often about how I believe in communicating with purpose because I genuinely believe that, and LinkedIn is one place that's helped me bring that together, right? So if you're anchoring your communication in the why, everything else flows. We are half of the time not clear on what that why is. So if you're combining your purpose with authenticity, which is, do you just stay real, not just right, but you have to stay real, bring your authentic self. And of course, be open to adaptability always because you're moving with context. So I think these three things, starting with purpose and authenticity and adaptability, whenever I'm like at loss of, okay, where is this message going? Or if it's too overwhelming, I look at these three things to anchor me back. And these filters really help me navigate.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant, right? Because asking those root questions every single time, it can, I think, get clarity to the chaos that may be around. I'm curious, did that set of instincts come together slowly over time, or it was like a eureka moment where you just realized, oh, wow, this I've nailed this.
Well,
This is what I will do.
yeah, I don't think anybody will ever tell you that they there was a eureka moment. Even now, it's
Try, I
constant.
can try. It makes for viral content. I saw a tree and I realized that look at
Yeah,
the
that,
roots,
that
look at the trunk, look at the leaves. Yeah.
I don't think that'll be authentic though, honestly. Going back to our comms pillars that we spoke to, but like when you're of course in a working environment and you have so many crisis situation, missed cues also. It's not nothing will always happen where you don't find trouble, and that's where you actually learn the hardest lessons, and that sort of helps shape where the pillars come from. But I also have to say that motherhood has really sharpened it for me. It taught me that
Yeah.
listening, timing, and intention, they matter a lot more than just perfect words. So that's where the whole aspect of authenticity also comes in.
Yeah, I think nobody ever talks about, I mean, maybe people do, how, what a learning experience motherhood is, right? I mean, apart from the love and empathy and compassion and
Which
patience, it just, like, there's never better schooling than becoming a mother, right? I mean, what all that you learn,
absolutely.
what all you thought you knew, yeah, it all goes out of the window. And I think I feel like a different person. I would have never thought that I had this amount of patience or I had this amount of, I don't know, resilience. But yeah, I think we tend to surprise ourselves. Motherhood is a good one. And
Absolutely.
absolutely right. And every day, it becomes difficult as to how can you love someone so much and also want them to, just leave you alone for 10 minutes so that you can do what you have to do. Um, we were talking about authenticity, and it is considered to be the holy grail. And as you said, right, sometimes we cannot, I mean, if you're doing a couple of things but we're not being authentic, sometimes it loses its entire purpose.
Yeah.
But to be honest, it's also a hard one to nail. It's hard to stay real when you are editing out everything that could be off brand. It's hard to be real when you know that maybe you will not be well received, amongst a set of people or amongst a set of audience that you are reaching out to. How do you personally keep the alive and kicking in the message?
Hmm. So, like it's actually not that hard. Like I will just like put it through the lens that would I say this to someone I care about? And if not, then certainly it needs to be rewritten. So, like there have been times where uh, I have to write more in terms of what the moment needs rather than how I personally feel. But I've never written anything or said anything that I don't believe in. So, that authenticity, if that's a core pillar for you, that will always play a role in anything that you do. So I guess that's something that you always need to fall back on, because if it's not authentic, nobody will believe you. So even your effort goes to waste.
Yeah, and people are sharp, right? People get to know if you are faking it. So, I mean, you need to give them credit. And I really like what you're saying because I think the core needs to remain solid. The trimmings around it, the way you project it, your tone, everything can change according to. But I think the core of it needs to stay like solid for it to really land. Have you ever had to choose between being strategic and being authentic? Was there ever a time, and what did you do in such a situation?
You marry the two. There is always an option. Like, I don't think it's ever either or. If you're strategic with authenticity, it is sure to land every single time. The only way it won't is when you're trying to get something else in the mix.
Yeah. And what is that something else? What could be like, sort of veering away from track when people, and then you've seen that, yeah, it doesn't work. Something from your experience, if you've seen.
Oh, well, there's not a specific example, but like again, it's only drawing from my experience. If you're only talking about what you are doing, I don't think that's authentic enough. It needs to also be rooted into what's in it for the people you're talking to or the person that you're talking to. If there's nothing in it for them, why will they have any interest in what you're saying? So it's about moving away from what you have to say to also include what matters to people that you're saying it to.
There's such a strong element of empathy also over there, right? Also, sort of looking at it from their point of view and not just it being your loudspeaker or your mouthpiece. The second pillar you talked about was purpose. And purpose, it often gets inflated with jargon. And yet, when it clicks, there's almost an electric quality about it. Was there ever a moment where you felt the purpose behind the message really land? I mean, you gave one example where you said, it's okay not to be okay, but somewhere where you felt that the purpose of a message was really resonating with maybe you or the audience, not just in metrics, but you just felt it instinctively?
Yes, of course. So we do a lot of educational stories at LinkedIn to, make sure that people know how best to use the platform. So there was just one series that we'd done on career clarity. And one woman wrote to me that, so that like the tips were really helpful for her. She had been trying to get back into the job market after a year of break. And like break in self-doubt, right? We know that sometimes it's harder for women to get back into the workforce, but those tips, she said, that really helped her. Now that won't show up in any success metric or any numbers, but that's something that, made me feel that, okay, what I'm doing um, is something that matters. And that's a very strong feeling to take away when you're coming to work every day. If you feel that your work is actually helping people and it matters, that's what also drives you. And at LinkedIn, we believe in doing well and doing good, and we feel we are that intersection, and these instances help prove that.
Yeah, and what a amazing sense of validation, right, for the work that you're doing, the fact that it is actually making a difference. I mean, I think there's no better validation than that. Somebody writing to you and saying, "Oh, that helped me." I think that's beautiful and makes it all worth it, right? Makes every day and everything that you're doing, yeah, just seem worth it. Wow, what a lovely story. You also talked about adaptability. And while most people sort of confuse adaptability with merely being flexible, I would like to believe it's not just that. It's also about staying true while shifting shape. You talked about it, you touched upon it a little bit, that you need to maintain your authenticity. So even I think adaptability also doesn't mean that you let go of everything you ever believe in just because you want to be flexible or fit in.
Hmm.
But in your experience, have you ever had to maybe sacrifice one pillar for the other, like maybe dial down authenticity to preserve adaptability? And do you have these moments where you have to weigh these trade-offs without losing your core? What do you do about it? How do you go about it?
So again, going back to the purpose, the reason that I said that purpose is the most important is because even if your other aspects change, if your purpose is there, the why cannot change. If you're rooted in the why, I think everything else uh might differ, but it all comes together to not digress from what you're trying to say. So you don't really have to um, um let's say, sacrifice one pillar for the other, but you do have to pivot. So even in the pivots, if your why is constant, your communication will always be authentic. There are always ways. I mean, there are so many examples, but I don't want to look at examples for other brands. But wherever you've seen authenticity clash with purpose, you will see that the message is very clearly comes across as, okay, I don't believe this. And reputation takes years and years to build, as you would know, and it just takes one moment for it to shatter. So that's why, if our purpose is very clear, and that's for us to know, every professional knows what their purpose is. If you don't deviate from there, you've got it. But if you do, then you also have to face the consequences.
The consequences of a jarring message which is really not resonating with anyone. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And it's happened.
yeah,
There are
and
so many examples out there.
I'm sure. And I also feel, that what you said, knowing your purpose also becomes very important. I think there are times when people maybe don't. They are sort of ambiguous about what their purpose should be. And I think that is when things start getting a little murky. If you're not really, if you can be just shifted from one thing to another because you're not clear on what you want. Okay, so now let's discuss something which is here, there, and everywhere, AI, attention, and tomorrow. So AI is knocking rather persistently at the communicator's door. And of course, I'm sure you've seen and heard and read about all the fears that are coming around AI, all the good things that are surrounded around AI. And while AI might write your copy, it really can't read the room yet. And while we are also talking about making AI more human and empathetic, but as of now, as such a core integral part of the communication landscape. What part of a communicator's soul can AI never replicate in your view? And I'm saying this with the knowledge that what we say tomorrow might change within 10 days with new technology coming out. But as of now, what do you think it is?
Mansi, I actually absolutely love what you've just said, that AI can write your copy, but it can't read the room. So, so we have at LinkedIn like a list that we come out with, which is top skills, top rising skills. And the biggest one, to my surprise, and to maybe yours as well, is communication and problem solving. These are the top most in demand skills, not AI fluency. Yes, it's there in the top five. But the first, the foremost, and this is not just in India, it's across regions that we see this, right? And that's simply because AI cannot replace human ingenuity. It cannot replace innovation. It cannot replace creative thinking. So that's the sweet spot. So of course anybody can gain AI skills, but what do you need to do with those AI skills? So in fact, one very interesting thing that I saw is that it's uh, writing code is not one of the top skills, but reviewing those codes is. So code reviewer is a job, like, and there were these jobs didn't exist many years ago. So now I know that how AI is sort of transforming our work. It's also how we also upskill ourselves to ensure that we are a step ahead of how we thrive in that AI world. The skill set that we bring to it, which AI can never do. Can never read
I
a
can
room.
never do. I can never read a room. I just saw this something which some was fine. So if you tell AI, I'm fine, AI will say, oh, okay, good to know. And if you say that to a friend, they'll go like, no, you're not fine. I know what's going on. And that's where there lies the rub. It's as simple as
Yes.
that. AI will believe what you tell it. And a friend or a close person or humans basically will realize, no, she's saying she's fine, but I don't think she's fine. So yeah, you're right. And I love that. And I also love the fact that, while people are worried about AI taking jobs, what you said was a beautiful thing, that AI actually created a job which never existed before, right? Analyzing code, it never existed. So we also need to look at that, how they are creating new jobs and not sort of view it as a scary monster. But yeah, probably just
It's also
embrace
about
it.
it's totally about how we want to use AI. Either we are scared of it or we use it as an assistant or as a tool. So I know a lot of people now are using it. It was so interesting, and I think I've also started doing that. That you put a prompt into AI, right? Like I'm doing this campaign, and give me the top ways to like take it to market. So the top three ideas that AI generates, I remove those, and then I sit with my team. Okay, let's ideate now. We know that these ideas will be generated for everyone, right? So this is something like what is AI? It has got all the knowledge of everyone around in it. So when we know that okay, people are thinking this way, how do we get more innovative and creative? Is that when we start thinking from where it ends? So I guess this is a great way of bringing out more creativity and new thinking. And I think that's how we need to look at that tool as well, of how it enhances us rather than anything else.
Yeah, I think it's helping us become more creative and also more different, right? How do we stand out from the crowd now that we know what the crowd is talking about? So
Yes,
it's also
absolutely.
sort of helping you evolve in ways we never thought, because it's challenging what you're thinking all the time. And you might think something is unique, but you realize, oh, it's not. It's the topmost idea that has been churned out, so which basically means it's right there. So yeah, I think that's a great insight to think about. Sakshi, you've led teams, you've crafted strategy, you've shaped stories. The pillars that you talked about for communication, do you think they influence your life outside work as well? Because I mean, I'm sure you know as well as I do, life cannot really be compartmentalized, right? You cannot be a person at work and be a completely different person at home. I think we all tend to carry um, portions of ourselves into different aspects of our life. So do you think with all the years of experience that you have now, you behave differently in your personal life or outside work?
Absolutely. In fact, I think you will be able to tell that difference more than anybody else, because I know how upfront I used to be and would speak without thinking, but that's not how
Yeah.
I've learned to listen better now to my son, to my partner, to my team, and like not reacting right away. So it's about listening to not react, but to actually help. So that sort of really helped me at work and at home as well. It reduces conflict. So I guess that's my go-to
For
thing.
sure. Yeah.
So yeah, you'll totally relate to that. I know.
No, but I love that. I love the fact that, listening not to react but to help. That is such, I think, step forward from how we were. Or maybe it was just the follies of youth. But yeah, I think I love the fact that, you tend to become a more mature, evolved, nuanced, complex person. Not complex as in, just like a more like a stickier version of yourself as we grow old. And that's always right? We're becoming a better version, better doppelgangers of our past life.
I would like to
We're
say
just
we
about
grow wiser, but
to No. So now we're just sort of approaching the end of the episode. I'll just have a couple more questions. So, this is what we ask most of our guests, that for young communication professionals starting out, is there any unconventional skill or mindset they absolutely need to thrive in this crazy ever evolving landscape according to you?
Hmm. So, I will talk about what I feel has worked for me. And maybe this is not a skill that'll go away very easily, but it's to be able to have that courage to hold your ground. Now, again, this goes back to purpose only if you're clear on your purpose and authentic, because see, not everybody will agree with you. Not every message will land the way you want it to land. But if you are grounded in your principles, like you know that, okay, you need to hold your ground, it will work. And I know a lot of people, especially the younger generation, I see that they give up if something is not working. But like the magic is right at the corner and we just don't go that extra mile. So I guess it's just to what I'm trying to say is that if you hold your ground to what you really believe in, grounded in your purpose, the humility to, let's say, write without ego. Like, it's you're keeping yourself out of equation. It's hard to do, but that's like a muscle that you build over time.
Yeah, I think, yeah, that's some solid advice for people because being grounded in your purpose, it's a good one. It's a tough one to do sometimes, but I think it's a good one. For listeners itching to improve their communication skills, right? And I also feel, I need to say this, that I really do believe that communication does come easier to some people than to others, because I have met a lot of people who really wanted to hone their communication skills, and it was harder for them. And I think sometimes for people like you and me, I do believe that there is an element of, yeah, it came slightly easier to us than to a lot of people. But people listening to you who want to improve their communication skills, what's a simple, maybe daily quirk, habit, exercise that you swear by to build empathy, authenticity, purpose, and adaptability?
Well, this is something that I have learned over time. I would also say the hard way, but because as journalists, we're so attuned to like just speaking. But to be a good, authentic communicator, it's important to speak last. Listening first is the best communication strategy that I can tell you for leaders or for anybody in any career. This is very, very helpful because it shows genuine curiosity and not control. People are more receptive to what you have to say because you've taken the time to hear everybody out. And if you would see, most good communicators, people who people would go back to listen to again and again, and who actually motivate you, most motivational speakers, everybody's one quality is that they listen first and they speak last. So I guess listening, and I think this is something that I've mentioned over the course when we've spoken, that's something that I've built over time, where you actually listen to what's being said, to what's not being said. And that is so important to be a good communicator. And I believe you, Mansi, you will know that more than anything, because I know how we used to be 20 years ago and how things have changed. And it's like you said, how you make people feel will always stay with them. So when you're speaking last, you're also saying something that you can evolve in your head and say something that actually truly matters to them, which will be lasting.
Wow. Wow. What an insight, Sakshi. To be a good communicator, you need to speak last, listen first. That's a good one, as because with communication, you always feel that, oh, it's about talking, it's about speaking, it's about, letting people know what you feel. And I think ending with on that note is brilliant. Thank you so much for everything you said. This was as fun as I had thought it would be. You I love your insights. I love what you're saying, and of course I love you as a person, so maybe that affection is also there. But thank you so much for doing this. And for our listeners, I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. And if you've not subscribed to our podcast, please do so. Until next time.